Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us again this afternoon to Hudson County Review Live. I am the man whose menace and methods have labeled him a lethal weapon, John R. Highness, your host, and today we are joined by Ward E Council candidate Rebecca Symes. Rebecca, it's a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Great to hear. So there's a lot to talk about at Ward E, obviously one of the most robust communities in Jersey City and beyond, but specifically to this race, let's talk about something that just happened pretty recently. One of the candidates, Michael Billy, dropped out and he endorsed Nick Grillo for the November 7th race. So what's your take on all that?
Well, I was surprised that he dropped out. He had worked hard to get the Garden State Equality endorsement. I think that Michael made the wrong choice. I was hoping that he would consider endorsing me. I think that our visions and values for downtown Jersey City are more in line. I wish Michael the very best as the executive director of the Hudson Pride Center. And regardless, I look forward to working with him when I get elected as the Ward E City Council candidate.
And did you guys chat at all about him possibly endorsing you, or this is kind of something that happened in one fell swoop?
It sort of happened in one fell swoop, which is, I was disappointed that we didn't get to have a conversation about it and, make the case.
All right, understandable. So I was looking at your website, and you have some policies that I think are a little outside the box. I'm sure you'd like to elaborate on. So first of all, something that makes some people nervous, but what I enjoy to hear about is taking money out of elections. So explain to me why that is important to you and how you would make this happen in Jersey City.
It's actually one of the things I'm most excited about. So part of my platform, I've proposed creating a small dollar matching program. And what that will do is it gives power to real people, residents living in Jersey City, who are making small dollar campaign contributions to candidates. Right now, Jersey City actually has one of the most strict pay-to-play laws in the whole state of New Jersey. It prohibits developers from making campaign contributions to local candidates, but I want to take it one step further. It's really hard for regular people who don't have private wealth or access to high dollar donors to raise the money that you need to run a successful campaign. A small dollar matching program takes care of those two issues. One, it takes money out of politics. We know that candidates are going to be responsive to their people and not focused on special interests. Two, it amplifies the power of those small dollar donations from grassroots candidates. And then three, it allows more people to take the leap and run for office.
So how would this be enacted? Would this need to be a referendum, or is this something that could be introduced on the council level, or how would this actually get instituted?
So the City Council could pass it as a law on their own, but I think because it involves city funds and a lot of our downtown residents are facing potentially large increases in their taxes because of the reval. I think what we have to do is go around the city, talk about the program, sort of get community input on what's the best way to do it, and then put it up on the ballot for a referendum to make sure that we have buy-in from citywide. But there are a lot of cities across the United States that are doing this. They have a small dollar matching program in Chicago, for example, and even across the river in New York. So it's definitely something that we could put in place here. And it's really a way to make Jersey City a national model for progressive policies, because it's going to be a long time before we pass campaign finance reform on the national stage.
All right, that seems to be, again, an intriguing idea. In a similar vein, I know you also had something on the website talking about the public's input on the budget and actually having each ward vote on how some of their tax dollars will be spent. So can you elaborate on that as well?
Yeah, so this is called participatory budgeting. And I like it because, different wards have different priorities, different things that are important to them. And this allows them to seed projects that the residents really care about. And it can be a way to do new, innovative things. Sort of get a test run. So for example, in downtown, it might be, participatory budgeting might be used to fund physical improvements to a dangerous intersection, or make improvements to a park so that the park plays more of a role in managing stormwater. It also has an important role to play in increasing civic engagement. A lot of people are worried about how our taxes are being spent, and the participatory budgeting process allows residents to learn more about how the budget process works and have a direct say, and not just during campaign season. It'd be every year.
So it's annual, so this would be a few, maybe monthly or perhaps quarterly hearings, and then obviously would come time to vote on the budget, and this would just be a continuous process.
Exactly.
Okay, sounds interesting as well. Now, you also talked a little about affordable housing. How do you think that pertains to Ward E?
So It's no secret that there's been a lot of growth and development in downtown Jersey City, and I've knocked on thousands of doors personally, and I've met hundreds and hundreds of residents, and regardless of their income level, people are worried about being pushed out. My professional background, I got my start in affordable housing. I think one of the things we have to do to keep downtown socioeconomically diverse is make sure that we hold on to our residents who are living in naturally occurring affordable housing by making sure that we expand tenant protections, making sure that we give people access to free legal help and information about programs and services that already exist to help tenants who are dealing with the pressures of, the market.
All right. Again, I think most people would agree with that. So more on the nitty-gritty politics side of things, Jake Hudson, who is of course also in the race, he made some disparaging remarks about you earlier this week on Twitter because you allegedly stole his campaign slogan. And you seem pretty upset about it. He had a graphic depicting you as a snake, and I'm sure you saw it in your Reddit. So what's your reaction to that?
I did. I think there's a lot of negativity and name-calling from our president right now. And unfortunately, I think that type of name-calling and personal attacks in politics there's a trickle-down effect that's happening, and we're seeing it in local races. I personally plan to stay away from behaving in that in behavior and engaging in that type of strategy. So all I can say is you won't see things like that from me or my campaign.
And who had the slogan first?
I'm not sure. We definitely don't have the same slogan. I joined the ranks of many politicians who use the word forward in their slogan, Obama being one of them. Sure. I think Steve Fulop even has forward in his slogan. So, I'm pretty sure that there's no proprietary issues at stake.
I didn't think there were, but all right. But you mentioned Donald Trump, so I actually have 2 points on that.
Okay.
One, looks like Donald Trump is going to be attending the President's Trump on Sunday. So what's your reaction to that? And do you plan on being involved in whether it be a protest or attending the event? Or do you have any, I'm sure you have an opinion, but what reaction are you going to do to that?
Listen, I'm going to be out on the campaign trail meeting with voters one-on-one. I'm not going to be spending any time at a golf tournament. I think that President Trump should be going to Puerto Rico and visiting, some of the most devastated areas in the aftermaths of the natural disasters that we've had. So that's where I stand. Okay.
Now, Jake Solomon, of course, also in the race, James Solomon, also in the race. He told me that all politics is local, and even when we're talking about these national policies that Donald Trump and D.C. is enacting, we need to be very mindful of how they impact us on the local level here in Jersey City. So you would agree with that, or would you disagree?
I think the best way to resist Trump is to make sure that we are protecting the most vulnerable people who live in Jersey City, because they are the ones who are going to be negatively impacted by Trump's policies. And that's by doing things like making sure we have affordable housing, making sure people have access to legal help that they need. That's where I've been focused for many years. I've worked in Jersey City to help build a nonprofit. I got involved over 4 years ago, and we're on target to help, over 2,000 low-income residents this year alone. And I think that's where we're going to make the biggest input. So it's helping our neighbors and our friends and, the people who live in our community who are most vulnerable to Trump's policies.
Okay. Now, there's 5 candidates in the race, even though there'll still be 6 on the ballot. But I guess formally there's 5 candidates in the race. And now, as you were well aware, Mayor Fulop has said he won't be getting involved.
Right.
People are coming up with their theories, whether you want to call it conspiracies or not, over who is secretly getting his support or quietly getting his support, whatever. Obviously, you've been in that conversation. Dixon Leasing, where you used to work, they made a large contribution to this full super PAC associated with Fulop when he was considering running for governor. So some people have pointed to that. Do you think any of this is based in reality, or do you really feel like everyone is just running this race on their own?
I can only speak to myself. I can't speak to the other candidates and whether they're getting help from, any institutional support. I'm running independently on my own. I've had I'm building grassroots support based on my work with the neighborhood associations and my nonprofit and the boards that I serve on. In some part, the experience of running for office is why I want to make sure that other people who have to do it on their own have that opportunity. That's partially why I'm really excited about passing publicly funded elections here in Jersey City.
Okay, I could see that. So, with that in mind, I mean, just tell us a little bit about your background. I know you've been around politics a long time, so could you just tell us a little bit about your background, why you got started, and how that led up to you running for the council?
Sure, of course. I mean, a lot of people have asked me, why do you want to do this? What are you thinking? You're crazy. But I grew up in a family where both of my parents were public servants. My dad was the director of planning for the town that I grew up in. My mom was on the school board and later served in the city council. So being involved in your community was sort of a family value. I didn't really expect that I'd be running for office this soon, to be honest. I had planned to support Councilwoman Candace Osborne and work on her re-election campaign, certainly vote for her. It wasn't until she decided that she wasn't going to run that I really decided to do this. And in terms of being involved in politics, I mean, really what I've been involved in is community activism. I got my start as an affordable housing attorney working at a nonprofit representing hundreds of tenants whose landlords weren't playing by the rules and fighting for legislative changes to make cities more livable for regular people. And then, I did work in government. I worked for U.S. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. And people always say, like, oh, did you get to go to D.C. a lot? And the reality is, no, I barely ever went there. I went to places like Schenectady and Buffalo and Rochester. And
how was that experience?
it was great. That's the best part of government, right? Being on the ground with real people, figuring out how to make sure that the federal government was delivering on its promises. I led a statewide team that was in charge of, responding to constituents who had a backlog veterans claim, or they're about to lose their home to foreclosure. Government can make a big impact on people's lives. And the other reason that direct involvement is really important is because that's where the ideas come from. Like, that's how we figure out, legislative initiatives that will fix problems that people have. So if we don't have that regular interaction, you're going to miss out on figuring out how to more narrowly tailor legislation to help people. And that's the point. So.
Okay, fair enough. So, what do you think makes you the most qualified, makes you stand out from the other candidates in the race? What do you think you're the best pick?
How much time do you have?
No, I'm got a little time.
I'm just kidding. Listen, my entire sort of career and personal passion projects have been focused on the intersection of government and community. Like I mentioned, I worked as an affordable housing advocate. On that side, I was working with communities, suing the government, also like thinking about how to partner with government to make better policies. When I worked for Senator Gillibrand, I was on the inside the government, but understanding people's frustrations with it. And even my private sector experience, you mentioned that I worked for Dixon Advisory, I was general counsel there. Mm-hmm. That gave me a really interesting insight into how the private sector works. That experience is helpful to me. It also gave me perspective on what it's like to be a homeowner here in Jersey City, trying to interact with the city, to renovate a home, or to find out questions about zoning or land use. So, I have a really great experience. And then on top of that, I really understand what the community cares about because I've been involved. I was the president of a downtown neighborhood association. I'm on the board of the library and the Liberty Science Center, and then also, working with this nonprofit, that helps real people living here. So all of that experience speaks to, my qualifications, really being able to understand the serious business that the city council deals with.
All right, I see you've thought about this one a little bit. But with that said, just also wanted to talk a little bit about maybe something that isn't on the website. What's a policy that you would like to get out there that is not currently out there?
Well, resiliency is really important to me, and that's something that we haven't rolled out yet, but I've been meeting with resiliency experts, some based here in Jersey City, some who are...
Is this flood resiliency?
Yeah, so it's really, the impacts, downtown is vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. So that's heavy winds, rising sea level, flooding, heavy rain, tropical storms. Because of our location downtown, we've got 5.6 miles of exposed coastline in Ward E. Big parts of Ward E are just a few feet above sea level, so we really are the most vulnerable part of Jersey City. And while the mayor has unveiled a resiliency sort of planning document, I think we have to do more. I want to build on that, making sure that every new building that's going up isn't just having a net zero effect, but is actually reducing our risk. And resiliency, this is an example, I think, of one of the ways that Jersey City can't wait for state or federal action. We have to take steps now because people's lives are actually at stake here. So resiliency is a big thing. We're going to be unveiling it over the next coming 2 weeks, so stay tuned.
All right, I will. So in such a crowded race, would you say it's a foregone conclusion this is going to go to the runoff?
I and my team, we are definitely planning for a runoff. I think just with so many people running, mathematically, it's unlikely that someone's going to run away with it. And so, yeah, I'm planning on a runoff.
All right, so no surprises on November 7th, one way or the other, as far as you could anticipate. Of course, November 7th is going to be a chaotic day, but that's one thing you plan for.
Absolutely.
Okay. And finally, just tell me why 2018 you will be the Ward E Council representative in Jersey City.
We've really focused this race on meeting as many people as possible. The campaign's knocked on over 4,000 doors. We're meeting people in their homes, in the streets, in their parks, in the farmers market. And this campaign has been about listening to what people want. It's been hearing their concerns and then building a substantive platform that addresses those things, not one-off lines on the website, but really thinking about what's possible and not speaking in sound bites. And that is going to translate to votes. I just believe that the people who live in downtown have had good city council representation for a long time now, and that they are, that a high bar has been set and they are looking for the best candidate, and that's me.
All right, Rebecca, a true pleasure. Ladies, gentlemen, children of all ages, it's a pleasure to be your host each and every week. It's always a lot of fun. We will be back in Jersey City next week speaking with Jersey City Councilman at Large candidate Sean Cotters. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great weekend.